Hey, Michael, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Brian, for having me. As I was saying, I love your podcast. I've been watching them for years, and you're probably the most fit person in IT with all the miles you walk. But yeah, my name is Michael Pavia. I've been in the industry coming up on 30 years here. Focused heavily on security. Been doing it a while. I tried to be a comedian for a few years back in the 90s and couldn't cut it. So I figured the next best thing was professional sales.
Yeah. How far did you get with the comedy?
Did it about a year and a half. I had a lot of interesting experiences. I won't say it was fun for the most part because almost every place I was working was literally in a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
It was a $0 cover or a $2 cover, and most people really were there just to drink and do scorpion bowls. So they weren't listening to me, and it was an experience. But glad I did it. Check the box.
Did you make it to what, Ding Ho? Was that the big place up in Boston at the
There was
time?
a few places. There was Yen's Walk. Had Laugh Lines. That was in Framingham on Route 9. I
Yeah.
did the Boston Comedy Vault once, and that was a really good show. But they also charged a lot to get in there, so people were actually paying attention. But every other place was in a Chinese restaurant, and it was humbling.
I
I
bet.
guess. Yeah,
Yeah, because it's really not the primary reason they're there, right?
they're not. They're there to have scorpion bowls and hang out with their buddies.
Yeah.
So
And how'd you get into sales? Was it just the natural thing after
um,
that, or was somebody in the audience saw something
no,
in you?
so I was actually already in sales at the time. So I started off. I went to Bridgewater State College. I started selling Cutco cutlery. So I was
Oh,
convincing total strangers to let me in the house with a bag of knives. You need a strong sales pitch for that. So that's how the career sales started 29 years ago.
and a lot of people come out of Cutco. It's
Yeah, it's a really good company. It's a great way to cut your teeth in sales. I mean, again, door to door is a little challenging. Not that it's door to door; it's warm referrals,
yeah.
et cetera. But it's a great product. It's made in America. I still have right beyond me here in the kitchen. I got $2,000 worth of cutlery sitting there. It's not knives, by the way, Brian. It's cutlery.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
difference.
Sorry.
But yeah, started a great program. I was actually there for 4 years. I opened up my own office, did the district manager thing for a while, and then got into regular sales in the IT world. Started off American Power Conversion, entry level, like a lot of people working their way up SDR, and then just took off from there.
And what you like about it, other than the money, or was it just the money? Or
What I like about sales?
yeah,
Uh, yeah, the money certainly helps. The money definitely helps. I like working with people. I mean, I'm not really a desk job guy. People always say, going back to the outer war, know your strengths and know your weaknesses. Administration is definitely a weakness of mine. I'm not a big fan of it. So just the ability to interact with people. I mean, it's obviously very challenging, but it's super rewarding when you're able to solve a legitimate problem that a customer has. So just all of it, getting out, traveling a little bit. I like golf. I'm not very good. It started out as a drinking problem and turned into a golf problem.
turn it into a
Um,
long walk.
right. But yeah, just a lot of components of it, just the whole psychological thing and working with people. I hate when people say I'm a people person, so I'll skip that. But
Yeah.
just a lot better than a desk job, and I've just enjoyed it. And if I can't be a comedian or an actor, I think it's the next best thing for me.
Well, it seems to be a big driver for a lot of people is that variety,
Hmm.
because sitting at the desk every day, eh, it wears on a lot of people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it definitely does. And this last couple of years have been obviously different and interesting because everything's been over Zoom, which has been challenging. And obviously, it's still, you're able to do it. But at the end of the day, being able to get out and build relationships. If someone's going to spend a lot of money and, my product right now is a high ticket item, they really want to know the person because at the end of the day, people buy from people they like, right? And people they trust. So, it's nice that we're starting to get back to normal here a little bit.
so you've been focused on security for a while now, huh?
Yeah, well over a decade.
Wow. You must like it.
I do. I do. It's one of those areas that it's, certainly at the top of the mind for, when you're talking to CIOs or CEOs, it's security, big data, and cloud.
Yeah.
Digital transformation obviously is certainly a part of that. So it's relevant. Sadly, I wish it wasn't so relevant, but there's a lot of bad people out there, nation states and actors, and there's a lot people have to do today. You see it just at a personal level, not that that's what I focus on, but especially with the corporations, we work with some of the largest companies you can imagine, and fill in the blank with the major banks and credit card companies, et cetera. And a lot of time they're the tip of the arrow. They're they're the true 0 days that are being targeted by, the Chinas or the Ukraines or Russia or whatever else. So it's become an important line, for them to focus on, and anything I can do to help secure their company. At the end of the day, it's also, national security, whether we're working with governments or just Fortune 500 enterprises. I was raised by my grandfather, who's a World War II veteran. I wasn't in the military, but I did receive some military beatings, so I felt like I was.
Some
Um,
unique military training.
Absolutely. He was a World War II veteran in the European campaign. But, I definitely grew up with that. He was a World War II veteran, grew up during the Depression. And I, still to this day, love the country. We certainly have our problems. And I never talk politics because I think most of them are complete crooks, regardless of which side they're on. Sorry if you're a politician and you're listening. But yeah, and I love the country, and anything I can do to help, whether it's just securing our infrastructure and helping enterprise clients, not lose critical data or proprietary information is certainly rewarding. I'm not saving lives like a doctor is, but it's definitely rewarding for me to do that.
And you get the whole field to yourself too, because there's no other players in security, are there?
Like 4,500 other companies, I
That's
think.
all.
Yeah, that's it. Just another 4,500.
Is mind share the hardest part of the sales? Trying to differentiate and distinguish and communicate?
Yeah, it's a great question. Certainly that's part of it. So I'm in a unique area. We do threat intelligence platforms. We really only have a couple competitors, a couple good companies we compete with. We are the world leader at Anomaly, is the company I work for right now. So at the end of the day, it's trying to align different business units, because it's not just one, it's not just a cyber threat intelligence. It's not just a security analyst. It's not just the security operations center. It's a lot of different things that come together. So just helping people understand the value we can provide, helping them understand, especially today with all the threat data that's out there, it's not a nice to have. It really is a need to have, because there's so much information out there that's available. What do you focus on?
Right.
I always talk about the Target breach. In 2014, they were the poster children for breaches. Even though they weren't the biggest breach, they certainly took the most flack. They were actually notified the morning they were breached. Unfortunately, Brian, they got 5,000 other email alerts that one morning. So what do you do when you get 5,000 emails in one morning before 8 a.m.?
Go
You
take a
ignore them
break.
all, delete them all, right? Next.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We help people disseminate that and focus really just on what's important to their company. So I think most people get that. At the end of the day, it's trying to justify the value, because it's not an inexpensive item. Like a lot of good security tools, it starts at 6 figures and certainly goes up a lot higher. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges, but I think people understand the need. It's just, helping them understand that the value, what we're providing is a lot greater than the amount of cash that they're giving us.
And what makes a great rep in this space?
Oh, that's a great question. There's really no silver bullet. I know I've been asked that question a lot of times on interviews over the years. I wish there was a silver bullet, but then again, maybe I'm glad there's not, because there's not many people out there that they really can do it. It's a combination of everything. It's experience, it's empathy, it's doing the right thing, it's having a high moral compass, it's understanding not only your product but also the space, the current challenges that the modern day CISO is up against, and CIOs. Just really being able to articulate the value, understanding what the analysts are doing. Again, always knowing your target audience, right? If I'm talking to an analyst, I realize that they're in the weeds, and they're sifting through thousands of lines of codes and threats and data on a regular basis. If I can help, maybe automate some of that, or alleviate some of the low-level processes that our product can do with automation and better alerting and better machine learning. I won't say artificial intelligence. I hate when everyone says that. It's just machine learning. It's very, very important, but it's not artificial intelligence. But if I can help people with that and make their work-life balance easier, to me, that's a win. When I'm talking to the CISOs, if I can explain that we're going to integrate with your security tools and validate all the strategic decisions you put in place and the tools and the millions of dollars you spent, just really knowing what's important to each person you're talking to and helping them understand that. Because I think most salespeople, especially in the beginning, and I was certainly guilty of this, 20 plus years ago, you go in there and you just become a walking brochure and you just puke up your information. And that's great, but you haven't really spoken to the customer about their specific needs. So just understanding that and knowing what's important to each person that you're speaking with and trying to tie that together.
And I've got a lot of listeners who are in the security space, and everybody wants that meeting with the CISO. And the ironic thing is, I get so many CISOs on LinkedIn connecting with me,
Mhm.
thanking me for teaching salespeople how to approach
Right.
executives.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, I've had a couple CISOs say to me, some of them don't even look at external emails.
Nothing.
They get so many hundreds, if not thousands of emails a day. They only answer internal emails.
Yeah.
And I would ask people like, well, how do you get in touch with people? Like if I really want to get in touch with them, one of my leaders will make an introduction or they've got my cell phone number. They're really doing the me too. I know what other people are doing in the industry. And that's why I think CISO forums are so important, and the ability to get out and network, to find out what they're doing and relate with them and understand what is important. So,
And
absolutely.
that's it, because most reps or junior reps are trying to take the I know something you don't know
Right.
approach, which I think annoys the hell out of
Yeah.
somebody who's been doing this 20, 30
Absolutely.
years.
Yeah.
All full day, all day long.
It's very true. And I doubt there's anything I know that a CISO doesn't know. And if there is, there's one thing maybe specifically about my product, only because they haven't looked at it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of challenges out there. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to provide something to the customer before I'm ever asking for anything. And I think that's super important. And whether it's just helping them make a connection, whether it's helping them understand, something new in the industry or a trend that maybe other clients are doing. But I want to be able to provide value before I ever ask them to give me a dime. And I think that's really important.
And given that you didn't have a security background from school or technology or as a technician, how'd you learn all this stuff? Because it is a world in and of itself.
Yeah, it definitely is. Part of it is I'm a little bit of a geek. There's a
Oh,
geek who
good.
lives inside me.
Yeah.
So I do always love to learn. I wasn't the best student in high school and college. I didn't have a lot of direction, just wanted to have fun, like a lot of college kids, right? I wanted to play football, which I did make the team, but I was basically a tackle dummy at Division 3. But as I get older, I really like to learn. And it's funny, whenever my wife can't sleep, she just turns to me at the end of the night and says, well, tell me about your day. And then boom, she's out.
Tell me
Uh,
about those threats.
all right. So I love to learn. So when I started getting into it, maybe back in the 2007, 8, or 9 area, it was starting to become more relevant. And obviously, the landscape's changed so much. We were doing at the company I was at, we were doing security assessments, and it was one of the hotter topics. So I just obviously wanted to learn better, wanted to hone my craft. I'm definitely not an engineer, but as a sales professional, if I can answer a question 1 or 2 levels down, I
Yeah.
think it just builds that much more credibility with me and the customer, knowing that, a lot of people do tend to exaggerate in sales, but if I'm answering a specific question, technically, it makes them trust me that much more. And again, I know when not to get over my skis and hand it off to my engineer or my architect. That's very important. But I just love to learn. So any reading, any external seminars, webinars, anything I get, even on sales, right? I've been doing this 29 years. There's still a lot I can learn, right? And
Of
that's one of the reasons
course.
I love your podcast. They're not only are they entertaining, they're also educational.
Well,
And
I
it's
think, yeah, people, go through like the Dunning-Kruger effect, and then they get to the realization that they're never going to know it all.
never, absolutely. And as soon as you think you know everything, you become the dumbest person in the room, right?
You're in that a terrible trap.
Yeah.
And I think when you sell highly technical or very specific, deep products, if you can't hold at least a half-hour conversation,
Mhm.
you don't have to be the answer man, but you can
Right.
discuss the issues and the
Absolutely.
implications of them
Yeah.
without getting tripped up or feeling, out of your ballpark.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's why it's important to know what's going on in the industry, whether or not it's relevant to my specific product,
Yeah.
to be able to share that. And at the end of the day, right, also saying to a customer, hey, that's a great question. And I understand the situation. We can't help you with that, but I would love to make an introduction because I know someone over here that might be able to help you. Right. And it's that intelligent conversation. It's really building a relationship and networking. And, I think that's what any true sales professional, to really be, to excel at their position, needs to be able to do that.
And you've been proactive with these forums and groups for CISOs, or
Yeah, I try to be, is whenever marketing allows me to spend the money. But I know there's a lot of other ones, like actually my friend Neil Saltman, who you've actually interviewed him
yeah,
maybe a year or two ago.
yeah, I know
He
Neil.
does a lot of CISO forums, and I try to get to those as well and helping him build those out. Where we can offer them a place where they can share information with their other colleagues without providing a sales pitch, just to be there to listen and to learn and to help other people make connections. As I mentioned before, giving them something before you're asking for anything in return.
Yeah. I used to do the thing with like user groups, and they were insanely effective.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you didn't turn it into a trade show, that it was really there to learn and to hear how other people are doing things.
Absolutely.
Because let's face it, at their level, how many people can really talk their language?
Mm-hmm. Not many.
Not many.
Not many.
And they are looking for new stuff and better stuff and different ways of doing it because their tenure is not that long.
Yeah. Real short with the CISO, unfortunately. Yeah. Which is good and bad, right? Because if you do make that relationship with them and they jump to another company, hopefully that's an in for you, but hopefully there's another position available for them and they didn't have that poster child, front of Wall Street Journal breach incident. So,
and have you seen any analogies from the comedy world translate well into the sales world?
Definitely. I mean, I think if, when you're presenting, if you can, obviously one of the hardest things is keeping people entertained and engaged, especially over Zoom. That's why I do like to have the camera on, so I can see that they're not multitasking.
See, there's someone there.
Yeah, right. They're actually paying attention. They're not, reading Archie comics or whatever the case is. I just dated myself with that. But yeah, no, just being able to present, being able to communicate effectively, articulately. I am from Boston, so sometimes I do need a translator when I say ka or pak. But I try to enunciate, but just, making it relevant, but also making it entertaining. Whenever I do public speaking, which I've done a tremendous amount, I do like to open with a quick joke just to get it started, to loosen them up, because at the end of the day, people are pretty tired of PowerPoints and all that other stuff. And when I do present, I try to keep it to 2 or 3 slides and again, make it relevant. So yeah, it was great training to do the stand-up comedy prior to getting into a professional sales career.
And that's it, because then you have that I want to talk with Michael attitude instead of I either have to or I don't have to. Right? There's that one, I want to.
Absolutely. And when I do take customers out golfing or whatever, most of the time I'm pretty entertaining. So it's not that, oh, I've got another dinner I have to go to or whatever. So try to make it interesting in real life. I mean, work is important, but it's not in the top 3. So if I can relate with people on a personal level, it just makes it that much more enjoyable, not only for them, but also for me.
And what do you see people doing wrong in your field?
Oh, everything.
A lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly made my share of mistakes, and I think really most sales professionals will tell you they've learned most from their mistakes, not so much from their successes. I mean, obviously you can learn from successes, but I've definitely made a lot of mistakes. And, going back to what I briefly mentioned, really understanding what the customer's interested in, not just going in there and puking up all this product information. The features are fine, but people really want to know what the benefits are. Like, what's in it for me? How is this going to make my life easier, my work faster, maybe streamline some of the processes that I hate today? If you can take them out of the way for me so I can focus more on higher level things. That's one of the things I say all the time. If we can take those low level 1 and 2 processes out of the way and help you focus on things that truly need human intervention, truly need an expert like yourself, Mr. or Mrs. Analyst or VP or CISO, that's a win, right? So really understanding what is important to the customer, not going in with preconceived notions. I see that all the time. And, and I used to drink the Kool-Aid, back in the day, I thought, I've got such a great solution. Everyone needs this. There's really nothing out there that everyone needs. There's not that silver bullet product. It's always defense in depth. You don't buy my product and say, well, I'm going to get rid of the edge firewalls. You need everything. So really understanding what's important to the customer, what their goals are. And again, depending on which level you're speaking to, is really, really important. And I see a lot of people don't take that approach. They're like, well, they're going to love my product. They've heard that from everybody. So that's probably the biggest problem I see. And then the second biggest problem, which maybe is the first biggest problem, is people focus on their own needs and not on the customer. If you really want to be successful, you need to focus on others. And whether that's as a sales professional or as a manager, focus on others. I actually, ironically enough, I read one of your posts today. It said, I'm paraphrasing here, but you should clap for your friends when they get promoted or reach their dreams, even if it, beat yours, to the punch or transcended yours. And it's really true to be able to be happy for other people, when they achieve success, whether it's someone that you're managing, and I've done a lot of management over the years, or a customer, helping them achieve their goals, even if it's pointing them to a different product that isn't yours. And there's only a finite amount of budget. So even though I don't have a lot of competitors directly, we're still competing for the same security budget, but really helping people, focusing on their success. And ultimately, that's going to get you the most success long term. And that shouldn't be your goal, but really trying to do the right thing, because, life is short. And, I think most people don't focus on themselves. I'm sorry, most people don't focus on others. They focus on themselves. That was certainly me in the 20s. I just wanted to get ahead. I wanted to make a name for myself. And not that I was unethical, but, if you weren't there to help me out, let's, move on.
Next.
And, not the best attitude.
And where do the deals get stuck? Because I got to imagine that it's probably reasonably easy to get their attention and some interest,
Mhm.
but that's a long way from an order.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I'm unique in the sense, in the situation I'm in right now. I've been at my company for about 3 years, and it is the world leader in threat intelligence platforms, and it's the best by a long shot. And we've got some really, really large names that you can imagine that you see on TV all the time, and some of the world leaders. So once I get people's attention, whether they're the analysts or the managers or directors or VPs or even the CISOs, usually I don't want to say it's an easy conversation, but it's a lot easier than most things I've ever sold in my life. So once they understand the value, and if we can establish that there was a budget or is a budget, or if we can help them maybe alleviate something else that they have to create an additional budget that's going to help them, with their goals, again, no matter what level you're at, it's been reasonably easy. Most of the time where I get stuck is legal, which is, the bane of my existence, just trying to get an MSA done. I had one customer, and obviously will remain nameless, but the lawyer came back after weeks and weeks of redlining back and forth and said, you can't use proprietary, you can use confidential. I was like, all right, are you just trying to increase your billable hours? I wasn't really sure, right? Yeah. But that's honestly the toughest part of my job right now is really legal. And it's only because I've got such a world-class product and a great team supporting me.
And it doesn't get stuck with the other priorities, because in security that you get nothing but priorities. It
Yeah,
seems like software development. There's a million uses for the money
right.
and time, but
Definitely is. Occasionally it does happen. I guess if it does get stuck, that would be it. Like, what are they going to prioritize first? But again, I'm very fortunate that people understand the value and the relevance of threat data, and the fact that there's so much out there. People a lot of times get paralyzed and don't know where to start, where we cut through all the crap.
yeah.
And with our machine learning and our confidence rating and everything that we do, plus we've got the world's largest repository of threat data, we just aggregated in one place. I think a lot of times people see the priority of what we do, and they do prioritize that ahead of a lot of other things. Every now and then someone will say, well, I need to do something else first, but it's few and far between in the current position I'm at.
Yeah. And what part of the sales process are you best at? Some people are great at getting in, some people are great at the executives, some are great with legal, some people.
Definitely not legal. Definitely not legal. I'd probably say presenting, understanding, asking enough questions. And before I get to slide one, I'm asking them questions about what's important to them. What are they trying to accomplish? Really trying to understand, how I can bring value to them in their day-to-day life, or tactical or strategic level. So once I understand that, really tailoring the pitch, and because I know my product inside and out, it's pretty easy for me to pivot even during a presentation, even though I'm using the same 3 slides all the time, to be able to, talk to them. Again, I'm not reading the slides, and that's a big pet peeve. I can't stand when people do that. But being able to speak about the story behind the slides, relevant to them. So I think I do a really good job of presenting and articulating the value to the appropriate audience when I'm speaking to them.
Because I sold security. My biggest problem at the beginning was differentiation, because they made the mistake of putting the word firewall in the product description,
Right.
which means, even this is a while ago, even back then, it meant a lot of different things, from Barracuda to Cisco, and they had 17 of them.
Right.
And they were, last thing we need is another one.
Right.
So you had to either, I came up with an analogy that just took my sales and skyrocketed, because I could tell a little analogy and then they got it.
Absolutely. And that's huge, Brian. I mean, being able to tell a story,
Yeah.
right? Not just reading the features and
What
benefits,
is
but
it? What
yeah,
is
exactly. How is this going to impact you? Why is this important to you? Here's a real life example. We really don't have a problem with differentiation. Every now and then, people think we're a feed, like a six scale or a flashpoint or an Intel 471. Every now and then, I'll have to explain that, but for the most part, people understand the platform, ingesting everything. So, but certainly in the past, that's very important to understand what's different about you and everyone else. So differentiating us between, our other two or three competitors that are out there, obviously very important. Why are they going to give me their money over the competitors?
And was there a particular skill, technique, mindset, epiphany that you had in your career that really got you to the next level?
Another great question. Yeah, definitely. It's I think it was actually something I read on LinkedIn like 10 or so years ago, maybe even longer, which just means I'm getting old. Um, Yeah, I'm sure it was actually longer than that. And it was just a little meme. It said, someone's going through, or rather, everyone's going through a struggle today that you know absolutely nothing about.
Yeah.
And in my 20s, I really didn't think that. And even if you told me that, I probably wouldn't have cared. I don't have a big family. It was, me and my brother growing up, and again, I wished everyone well, but at the end of the day, if you weren't helping me out, I'm just going to blow by you. A pretty crappy attitude, just to be that immature. And I think the dumbest people in the world are 20-year-olds. I'll definitely lump myself in that time when I was there, because you don't understand real life. You're just starting working. You don't understand. You really probably haven't been through that many tragedies in life, and
Right.
maybe you have, but maybe you haven't. Certainly in your 30s you see it more, and by the time you hit 40, you've gone through broken relationships, or whether on a personal or romantic level or family level, or tragedies, or health problems, or people that have gone through real serious stuff that's just way more important than work. So just really having that understanding, that realization that everyone's going through something that's way more important than anything you could ever talk about at work, and trying to be very empathetic and understanding to people. Knowing that when someone's being rude to you, it's probably not related to me,
Right.
and it's probably nothing I said. And listen, sometimes it is. Maybe sometimes I said something incorrectly. Certainly happens. I'm far from perfect, but most of the time, maybe there's something else going on at home, or personally, or health wise, and not jumping to conclusions. And again, maybe sometimes pivoting from my sales pitch to say, hey, is everything okay? And just trying to relate at a human level. And I've got some amazing relationships with customers that I've been working with for years that, hey, something's not okay. And I'm taking a leave in a couple of weeks because I'm going into the hospital for XYZ, and just pausing everything you're doing. Because at that point, it's not really important. And, if you're trying to make a sale and someone's telling you they're going through cancer or something else, shame on you. You really need to stop and reevaluate what is important, because life is short. So just really understanding that, again, work is very important, but it doesn't crack the top three. And trying to relate with people, trying to be a good person, and trying to help people out more than just work related, has really been big. Because, again, I'm not trying to do it to develop great relationships so I can sell more. That is a side effect, which is nice, but really just trying to relate with people. And if I can help people, with something that's personal, I'd love to be able to do that. Not that I have all the answers, I clearly don't, but I've definitely been through a lot in my 49 years here. And if I can help people out, I'd love to be able to do that. And it made life a lot more enjoyable and make work a lot easier too. So that was kind of the epiphany 15 or so years ago.
Well, just seeing that meme and having that question or that statement gets you curious about what they're going through.
Hmm.
And when they share that, you're now at this whole nother level with them.
Yeah.
You're not at the security level. You're at
Right.
the personal level. And
Hmm.
boy, do they want to tell you,
Yeah.
tell anyone.
Absolutely. And sometimes, again, and I don't have the answers for everything, obviously, but
They're not
sometimes
looking
just,
for answers. They're
yeah,
looking
just
for an
just
ear.
just listening is huge. That's something I learned in the beginning of my marriage, almost 20 years ago.
They're not
You
looking for
don't
a
have to solve
solution.
every problem. Sometimes just shut up and listen. Just trying to solve the problem is only going to make it worse sometimes,
Yeah,
if I could even solve it, right?
right. Hey, Michael, really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Oh, I appreciate that, Brian. Yeah, pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm definitely on LinkedIn. I work for Anomaly. I live in the Northeast here, covering all of New England and New York. So if I can help anyone with threat intelligence or threat intelligence platforms. But even more than that, as to what I was saying, if you have any questions about security, if I can make an introduction to other cyber execs or CISOs, I'd love to be able to help you out. But LinkedIn's probably the best way to get in touch with me. I mean, I'm on there every day. So if I can help anyone in any way, please let me know.